Dopamine is not a toxin. You cannot reset it by fasting from your phone. The scientist who coined the term dopamine detox later admitted it himself. He said it in an interview. The detox metaphor is wrong, and every video promising you a dopamine reset in a week is built on flawed physiology. I will explain what really happens in your brain when you get stuck in your phone, and what actually works instead of a detox. This video is not about restricting yourself even harder. It is about how science actually describes screen dependence, and why almost everything you have heard in short clips about this is wrong. I will try to make it simple. No empty jargon. Real studies. So after this video you understand your own brain better than most people who talk loudly about dopamine online. Open any productivity video. They tell you, your brain is overloaded with dopamine. Social media, dopamine, depletion. So you need 24 hours without your phone, without tasty food, without music, without friends. This is the so-called dopamine detox. Thousands of bloggers jumped on it. The idea is simple. More entertainment means more dopamine. More dopamine means less joy from normal things. So you have to starve. It sounds logical, but real neurobiology works completely differently. The Cleveland Clinic, Stanford, Harvard openly call the pop version of detox pseudoscience. Not out of malice, because physiology simply does not work the way short videos draw it. To understand this, we have to look at three things. What dopamine actually is, what happens to it under overload, and why the word detox does not fit it at all. This is the basic but critical picture. Without it, any how to fix your brain advice is just words. Most people think dopamine is the pleasure molecule. That is an outdated view from textbooks of the 80s. Modern research shows something different. Dopamine is the molecule of anticipation. Not joy from food, but expectation of food. In 1997, neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz published a paper in the journal Science. He measured when dopamine neurons fire in monkeys. It turned out, not at the moment of reward, but at the signal that the reward is about to come. When the monkey already knew that juice came after a bell, dopamine fired on the bell. On the juice itself, almost nothing. Schultz called this a prediction error signal. Dopamine tells the brain, hey, something better than expected is coming. It is a learning signal, not a pleasure signal. And one more important observation by Schultz. If the reward was promised and did not come, dopamine does not just go silent. It drops below baseline. The brain signals, this path was a lie, do not remember it. A few years later, Michigan researchers Kent Berridge and Terry Robinson introduced a split, wanting and liking, two separate systems in the brain. Dopamine handles wanting. It pushes you toward the goal. Liking is a separate system. It runs on opioids and endocannabinoids. Dopamine is barely involved. This explains a strange thing. An addict keeps wanting the drug even when it no longer brings any pleasure. Wanting, yes. Liking, no. Same with scrolling. You swipe the feed for hours. But if you ask, was it pleasant? Usually the answer is, not really. Wanted to watch? Yes. Liked it? No? Remember this difference. It is the key to everything else. When a blogger says dopamine is pleasure, so you need less of it, they merge two systems into one. That mistake is where the entire detox myth comes from. Pleasure is not dopamine. Dopamine is craving. Now the main thing. What actually changes in the brain during constant screen overuse? Michigan researchers call this sensitization. The brain becomes hypersensitive to reward cues. You see an app icon, and the wanting system already fires. Every signal, every notification, every buzz. The result is not dopamine depletion. It is the opposite. Amplified wanting. Raised baseline of expected stimulation. This is the opposite of what bloggers say. They say, you have too much dopamine, you need to drain it. Reality. You have too many triggers, and the wanting system has learned to fire on each one. Sensitization is not a temporary effect. Berridge and Robinson in their 2025 review show, these changes last months, sometimes years. You do not reset them with one phone-free weekend. In parallel, a second thing happens. Long years of research by Volkow at the National Institute have shown, under chronic overstimulation, dopamine receptors in the striatum shrink. This is called downregulation. That is, the brain gets a lot of signal and turns the volume down itself. Removes some of the antennas. Brain scans of internet-addicted people show the same. Fewer available receptors in the striatum. a deep structure responsible for motivation and habits. These data come from PET imaging, not guesses, but actual scans of actual people. The result: simple joys go dull. A walk, a book, a conversation. After 3 hours of scrolling, all of it feels boring. Not because dopamine got depleted, because the bar of expected stimulation got raised too high. And one more important thing: these receptors do not recover during one day of fasting. Recovery takes weeks and months, not 24 hours. This is a completely different physics than what detox videos draw. Understanding this, you understand the main point. The problem is not the amount of dopamine. The problem is which triggers you let the environment throw at you, and how the brain adapted to that overload of triggers. Where did the phrase dopamine detox even come from? In 2019, Dr. Cameron Sipa from the University of California, San Francisco published an article. Sipa is a clinical psychologist who works with addictions. He called his method dopamine fasting. What was inside? No biological fasting. It was a renamed standard cognitive behavioral therapy technique. It is called stimulus control. The principle: if there is a problematic behavior, remove the triggers for a day. No phone, no alcohol, no overeating. For 24 hours. Just to see what you feel without that crutch. The method works. But the name was a metaphor. Good for marketing, bad for science. The article got 100,000 views in 24 hours. World media reprinted it. And here bloggers grabbed the word dopamine, turned the technique into a spiritual practice, started saying, the brain rests, receptors recover, dopamine resets. Viral clips appeared. A guy refuses to talk to a woman because he is on a detox. Even though in his original article Sipa explicitly wrote, talking is allowed, talking helps. Sipa later gave an interview to the newspaper. Said, dopamine is just a mechanism. The title is a catchy headline. It is not to be taken literally. He even apologized publicly. Said, I just wanted to give patients a clear name for a CBT protocol, and this is what came out. Too late. The myth went viral. And now, when you hear dopamine detox, 9 times out of 10 it is not what the author wrote about. This is a typical science communication story. A scientist invents a convenient word. A journalist pulls the word out of context. Bloggers turn it into a wave. And a year later, 1 million people repeat the idea that the author himself has already debunked. Alright, what do you actually do if you spend 5 hours a day stuck in your phone? The answer is what Sipa originally proposed. Behavioral techniques. Without metaphors about toxins. A modern adult unlocks their smartphone over 80 times a day. That is data from research back in 2015. Since then, it has only gotten worse. If you just tell yourself, I will spend less time on my phone, nothing will happen. Willpower is a limited resource. You will break in 2 days. Something else works. First, environmental control. Not willpower. Not, I will not do it anymore. Physical distance. Phone not in the bedroom. Social media, log out on the laptop. Notifications, all off, except calls. The principle is simple. The more steps between you and the app, the less chance of getting stuck. Each extra click is a chance to stop. One experiment from Germany. Students were asked to leave their phone in another room while studying. Not turn it off. Just put it in another room. Performance went up. Simply because reaching for it was no longer possible. Another useful trick. Switch the screen to black and white. App designers spent millions on bright colors. A grayscale screen instantly kills half their work. Second, replacement. Not remove a habit, but replace it with another one. When your hand reaches for the phone, what just happened? You felt bored, anxious, lonely, or you got tired thinking through a hard task and need a break. It is not the phone itself that creates the craving. It is the signal empty inside. The phone is the cheapest answer. Think what else could be an answer. Do 10 push-ups. Pour tea. Open the book that lies on your desk. Call a friend. Step out on the balcony for 1 minute. Just listen to yourself. After a couple of weeks of repetition, the brain starts choosing the new answer automatically. This is called habit reversal training, a standard behavioral therapy technique. The main thing, pick only one. Not 5 new habits. 1. Small. One you can definitely do every time. Third, scheduled boredom. This is a paradox, but boredom is the fuel of creativity. When the brain is not occupied, the so-called default mode network activates. Ideas come from it. It is where the brain connects distant memories and experiences. Set aside 20 minutes a day for full nothing doing. No podcast, no music. Just sit and look out the window. Or walk without headphones. The first days are painful. It will feel like you are wasting time. You will want to grab the phone every 30 seconds. By the end of the second week, it becomes pleasant. After a month, you start catching thoughts you simply did not have before. Fourth, one screen, one task. Do not watch a video and scroll social media at the same time. Do not work with a messenger open. Every switch gives a tiny dopamine hit. Constant switching is the very high bar of stimulation the brain adapts to. Focus works the opposite way. The brain learns to enjoy a deep process, not flickers. And fifth, sleep. The most underrated tool. During sleep, the brain literally washes itself, clears metabolites, rebuilds connections. One of the strongest ways to bring receptor sensitivity back, to actually sleep 7 or 8 hours. Without sleep, no detox works. With sleep, even without detox, things start to recover. It is interesting that such practices are not new. In Japan, since 2014, an industry has appeared. The so-called digital detox retreats. The village of Chozii in Chiba Prefecture, Awaji Island, Mount Koya in Wakayama, where pilgrims live in temple lodgings. They are called shikubo. People come for 2 or 3 days. Hand in the phone at the entrance. The routine, meditation at dawn, simple food, walks in the forest. No one talks about dopamine. No one promises a receptor reset. The Japanese understood an important thing. Not a detox. A pause. Reconnection with what was always there. Silence, your own breath, real food. This is not magic. It is the same behavioral therapy, wrapped in beautiful decor. The environment switches fully, triggers disappear. The brain gets a chance to not return to its habitual reactions. And what matters, after coming back, people do not stay cleansed forever. A week back in the city, and everything returns. Unless you change your home environment. The lesson is simple. The trip is just the start. The real work is every day at home, in your own kitchen. A useful conclusion. The fact that the Japanese have done this for 10 years and no one calls it treating dopamine tells us something. In the East, it was always about attention and silence, not about brain chemistry. And the last thing that matters, why the brain reacts so strongly to novelty at all. 100,000 years ago, our ancestors lived on the savannah. Information was a resource. A new sound, a new movement, a new berry in the bushes could mean food or a predator. A brain that caught every new signal survived. A brain that ignored died. There is even a gene. Scientists call it the wanderlust gene. One variant of this gene is linked to novelty seeking. In the descendants of tribes who migrated far from Africa, it occurs more often. That is, this is hardwired in us. Seeking the new is an ancient survival program. The problem is that the modern environment has hacked this program. The feed in your phone is a savanna without predators. An endless stream of novelty. Free. Safe. Without effort. Every video is a new berry. Every notification is a rustle in the bushes. Only on the savannah, behind the rustle stood either food or death. In the phone, ads and emptiness. The dopamine system is not broken. It works perfectly. It is just being exploited by technologies whose every pixel was optimized by thousands of specialists. When you cannot tear yourself away from the feed, that is not your weakness. That is an army of engineers against one person. No surprise the army wins more often. If you hold this picture in your head, the guilt disappears. And the right question appears. Not why am I so weak? But how do I arrange my environment so the army of engineers touches me less? So when someone tells you, do a 24-hour detox, nothing bad, it will not hurt. But there will be no magic. The magic is in boring, slow, repeated changes in environment, in replacing reactions, in accepting that the pull toward the phone is not weakness, but an ancient reflex. The brain does not need a day of fasting. It needs new habits repeated for weeks. A new environment, where the social media button is not the first one on the home screen. New answers to boredom and anxiety. This is slow. It does not sound like a magic trick for one day. But this is exactly how real changes in the brain work. This is one of those cases where a popular piece of advice sounds cool. But under the hood, a completely different neurobiology. On this channel, I make breakdowns based on real data, not on hyped headlines. If you want to see more of these, subscribe. It only gets more interesting from here.